One of my first no's was my parents when I told them I wanted to go into public relations, and they laughed at me and said no. And then my other big early no was when I first invented a streamer and I was building it here on my patio out in Hawaii. My wife said, stop playing with that piece of plastic and get a real job. And she lived to regret those words. But I'm used to no, and you got to pitch 100 people till someone says yes, and you can't take it personally. That's it. Keep asking people all along the way so you're more receptive to no's, believe it or not. No's, I take no's as fuel. If you give me a no, that gives me incentive to come back and say, okay, I'll show you how wrong you are with that no.
Yeah.
But to work that hard and then get it to a point where people can evaluate it and then have them laugh at you and not even look at it. What happened was one Coast Guard guy who was really a stickler for details said, well, wait a second. This looks interesting. He was the one guy that gave it a chance. And then it's kind of like a bandwagon effect. So they were much more apt to follow someone else saying yes. So when the Coast Guard said yes, all of a sudden the Navy said yes. And then you just keep building on yeses. So, you laugh at a no and give it fuel for yourself to modify your pitch, but you keep plodding along. You have to. You meet someone and learn something about them, get to know them before they ask. And
right.
That is so critical in sales. And, I've had every sales job in the world. I was a pool boy. I sold shoes. I did everything. And it just keeps, challenging you to make that pitch. And again, get used to the no's. If you've lived in a sheltered life and you're only in the internet your whole life in school, you're not used to getting no in your face and smiling and saying thank you anyway. And also try to get those constructive things out of that no. I had a licensee, the first licensee I had, it was devastating in that they said no after the beginning startup. They wanted to do it, and then the whole thing imploded from their other business. That was devastating because I thought, here we go, I've got a military approval coming on board. I've linked up with a company in New York to be a licensee, and they called me and said, we're having trouble on the other aspect of our business and we're done. So then all of a sudden the whole dream collapsed. The other thing that I've always contended, and I think what people are making a mistake these days, is to think that everything's about funding and everything's about ramping up to making $1 million company, even Shark Tank. I come from a family of entrepreneurs that are small business entrepreneurs. So yes, I shoot for the moon. Yes, I want $1 million in sales. And yes, we did get $15 million in sales over the last 20 years, but I still want to be able to revert back to a small mom and pop company just in case. Because if you really have the passion for your invention or idea, you don't want it to ever die. It's like your child. It's weird, but even my kids, I rooted for them to fail a little in school. I think too many parents want to make it easy for their kids, but I'm always looking for little mini failures, not big ones, right? So when the big ones come, you're equipped to deal with it because you've had a history of little ones,
Mm-hmm.
And that's helped me forever. I'm used to people doubting me, and I love it. Like I said earlier, that gives me fuel. My wife got multiple sclerosis, and I had to take care of her. She became paralyzed in a wheelchair for 19 years. So I had an overprinting of a heavy situation. Little kids, wife in a wheelchair, living in the most expensive state in the country, and just totally, edgy. The whole thing was on the edge the whole way. That was still the most devastating no of all time, was going to the doctor when my wife was limping and him saying, something, you have MS, you're probably going to be paralyzed. And that was brutal. And also just from the concept of eventually my wife passing away, which she did a few years ago, but just knowing that the journey we were about to face with little tiny kids, that was a tough one.
Wow.
Of course, that's also, the other thing is to keep things in perspective. When you have something like that happen to you in life, this business stuff doesn't mean anything. Your business can fail. It doesn't mean anything. It's fun. And it's, it's painful. It's okay. You lost money. Big deal. They're not throwing you in jail. You're not going to Afghanistan to get bullets fired at you. Your wife isn't sick. You're not dying. Those are big things. I always tell people there's 120 hours in a week. You could work a full-time job, 40 hours, and still have 80 left. Even if you sleep 40 hours, you still have another 40.
Yep.
So turn off your Netflix and all the screwing off you do. Turn the TV off. Stop fooling around and work your job at night and weekends, your second job. That's where, to me, you don't quit your day job so you can quit your day job. Everyone thinks they're going to quit, and even if you have something in place making money, wait till it's really established before you quit on a third-party source of money, which can be critical to take the pressure off, because everything you do takes twice as long and twice as much money. You ask anyone, whatever you're doing, building a house, building a business, twice as long and twice as much money. Over the years, the quietest one in the circle is usually the wisest one. So need to know basis. Does this person need to know what I'm about to tell them versus just telling them all this stuff? So, and I'm still working on that, obviously. So need to know basis. A young person, if I would melt my younger self and say, listen, close your mouth a lot more. Not everyone needs to hear everything right away, and that's what I would reserve some of my thoughts and use them more strategically. And that's kind of where you got to keep business and invention and innovation in perspective. And again, you can read about all the people that have made it. They've had so many failures. I mean, your show is based on failures, right? That's your whole premise. and that's failure is beautiful. And no one likes it, but it's almost like a requirement. It's a badge of honor.